will come to order. The Pledge of Allegiance this morning will be led by Hillary DeLeon, Deshani Scamilla, Leslie Salazar, and Vanessa Casillas from West Generation Academy in Denver.
Ladies and gentlemen, please join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Kohler, please call the roll.
Representatives Becker, Buck, Buckner, Conti, Corum, Court.
You guys want to get a picture? Who's closer?
Representative Court.
Yeah, absent.
Absent. Del Grosso. Representative Del Grosso.
Absent.
Absent. Dorr excused. Duran excused. Everett. Exum. Fields. Fisher. I called you. Foot. I got you. Garcia. Representative Garcia.
Absent.
Absent. Gardner excused. Giroux excused. Janal. Hamner. Representative Hamner. Oh, excused. Holbert. Hollinghorst. Madam Majority Leader.
Man, this is quiet in here. It is very quiet in here.
Unusually quiet in here. Majority Leader is absent.
Absent. Humphrey. Joshi. Kagan. Kraft-Tharp. Labuda. Excused. Landgraf.
Court's present.
Excused. Representative Court is present. Lawrence.
Lawrence is excused. I believe she's over.
Lebstock. Lee. May excused. McCann.
Hollinghorst present.
Del Grosso present.
Priola present.
Representative McCann.
What? No, she's. No.
No. So.
Absent.
Absent. McLaughlin. McNulty. Melton. Mitch Bush. Moreno excused. Murray. Navarro. Nordberg. Pabon excused. Peniston. Pedersen. Primavera. Priola. Rankin. Excused. Rosenthal. Ryden. Sane. Representative Sane.
Absent.
Absent. Salazar. Schaefer. Scott is. I don't know. Scott.
Excused.
Excused. Singer. Excused. Sonnenberg excused. Stevens.
Excused.
Excused. Swam. Zabo. Tyler excused. Vigil. Representative Scott is present. Representative Vigil.
Absent.
Absent.
I don't know where
Waller. Representative Waller. Absent. Williams. Wilson. Wright. Young excused. Speaker Ferrandino. Great, because I'm probably wrong too. Yes. Moreno's here. 6 absent. Vehill's here. Hollinghorst, Garcia. Well, she's not here somewhere, but not in the chamber.
What do we have?
44, 16, and 5.
Beal's here.
Yeah, I got him.
Who's the 5?
Hollinghorst, McCann.
Hollyhorse is here. She walked in.
Where?
She was here. She was standing here when. She was here. She might not be here right now, but she walked in and.
Garcia, McCann, Saint, and Waller.
Okay.
So 45, 16, and 4.
They're saying.
Okay. 46, 16, and 3.
With 44 members present, 46 members present, 16 excused, and 3 absent, a quorum is present. Representative Wright for hopefully a, you got nothing? Got nothing. Okay, Representative Wright.
Mr. Speaker, I move that the reading of the Journal of Wednesday, April 9th be dispensed with, and that it be approved as corrected by the Chief Clerk. Did I get that right by memory?
I think you did. Good job. You've heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, no? No. The ayes have it. The motion is adopted. Announcements and introductions. Representative Kraft-Tharp.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, if I could just have a moment. Frank DeAngelis, who is the principal at Columbine High School, is retiring and is receiving the Norma Anderson Award today. And so I would like for us to stop and take a moment. This is a principal who, when the tragedy at Columbine happened, made a commitment that he would not retire, would not leave Jefferson County until all children that went to school in Jefferson County graduated from high school. And those kindergartners, those children that were kindergartners when the Columbine tragedy happened, are graduating this year. So Frank DeAngelis is leaving us. He is retiring. And so if we could take a moment and say, thank you, Frank DeAngelis, for helping our kids and helping our school system.
Representative Pettiston.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And we're being a little more casual and have a little more time to waste for appropriations, so I thought I would take the moment to introduce some rural folks who are also teachers in our rural communities for the most part, and they are here for the Colorado Education Association Delegate Assembly. So welcome them to our chamber, please.
Representative Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members of the Business, Labor, Economic Workforce Development Committee, we will meet today at 1:30. We will hear Senate Bill 117, Senate Bill 156, and House Bill 1346 will be laid over. See you at 1:30.
Any further announcements or introductions? We got time. Any? Okay, seeing no further announcements or introductions. There we go. Representative Fisher. Robotics? Not robotics. That was last week. Representative Fisher.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, this announcement and flyer showed up on my desk yesterday. I'm not sure who put it there, but maybe we should be reminded that tomorrow is College Day, College Friday. It's a day when traditionally we all wear our college alma mater garb here on the floor. We're permitted, usually, if the Speaker will allow it, we're permitted to wear some of our college paraphernalia, and it's a good way to show our support for higher education and take pride in the institutions that made us who we are. So I encourage you to take advantage of that tomorrow.
And as Representative Fisher suggested, if you are wearing your college outfits, the coat, whatever you want to wear, the dress code will be somewhat relaxed. No shorts and T-shirts, but I know. That happened once. I know. Any other announcements or introductions? Seeing none, the House will be in recess as we wait for appropriations to finish. I also come back to order. Just going to read a couple things across the desk. Reports to committees of reference.
Committee on Finance, after consideration on the merits, committee recommends the following: House Bill 1066 be referred to the Committee of the Whole, favorable recommendation. House Bill 1311 be amended as follows, and as so amended, be referred to the Committee on Appropriations, a favorable recommendation. House Bill 1326 be amended as follows, and as so amended, be referred to the Committee on Appropriations, a favorable recommendation. House Bill 1349 be referred to the Committee of the Whole, favorable recommendation.
Printing report.
Chief Clerk reports.
The remainder of the printing report will be printed in the Journal. Sign of bills, resolutions, and memorials.
Speaker has signed.
The remainder of the report will be printed in the Journal. House will go back to recess. Madam Majority Leader.
Yes, are we going to move to special orders? Yeah. Hold on. Are we raising the call? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move to raise the call of the House.
No, let's do a call of the House.
Oh, are we doing a call?
Yeah, can we do a call?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move a call of the House.
Call of the House has been moved and been properly sustained. Sergeants close the doors. Mr. Kohler, open the machine and members indicate your presence. And Mr. Kohler, call the names of the people missing.
Yeah, because he was at a pub.
Representatives Buck, Conti, Del Grosso, Dorr, Foote, Gardner, Hamner, Lawrence, Lee, McLaughlin, McNulty, Melton, Mitch Bush, Priola, Sane, and Wilson. Representatives Lawrence and McNulty.
Do I raise the call? Lawrence and McNulty. McNulty's right there. The sergeants cannot go get Representative McNulty his jacket. I'll find another reason to fine you, Representative McNulty. Madam Majority Leader, you'd like to raise the call?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move to raise the call of the House.
Seeing no objection, the call of the House will be raised. We'll quickly do if there's more announcements and introductions, and then we'll move on to our next order. Representative Salazar.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Right here in the center part of the gallery, we have a school right out of my district and a bunch of Chicos up there from Tarver Elementary. Everybody say hi. Hi, guys. Nice to see you.
Representative Hamner.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and colleagues. We have cute kids up here, and we have teachers from Crested Butte and Gunnison County over here. I hope that you'll get a chance to say hello to them today. I also want to announce that guess what tomorrow is besides just Friday? Yes, very good. Tomorrow is College Day. So you know that you get to wear your favorite college gear. And I did ask permission of the Majority Leader. I forgot to check in with the Speaker, but I'm sure he'll go along with it because it's Friday and we've all worked hard. So you get to dress down a little bit and wear your favorite college gear. So don't forget.
Representative Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And members, if you could welcome Be Well Colorado, who's visiting us here today. And if we could have Alicia and her team stand up and everyone on the side. And Be Well Colorado is an organization in my district. And they promote healthy eating habits and fitness. And I'm happy that they're here today and hope that you will say hello when you have a moment.
Representative Williams, you're fined $2. Doesn't matter. You're not allowed introductions. That's not an introduction under the rules. $2. Representative Scott. You assumed I was going to call you quorum, but.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would like to have you welcome teachers from Mesa County who are over here on the far wall to our right. Thank you for being here today.
Representative Corum.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Representative Scott stole part of my presentation, but we also have Chaffee, Alamosa, and Montrose County represented here, so welcome them.
Representative Peniston.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I don't know if this will get me fined or not, but ladies of the chamber, you will notice that you have a pretty rose on your desk, and I am not allowed to tell you who it's from, but I am allowed to say it's from a male member of the chamber who very much appreciates the nice touch that we women here bring to the legislature.
Representative Vigil.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I'd just like to introduce some people from the San Luis Valley. I got some teachers on this side, and I think I got some students from Monte Vista up in the top. Give them a warm welcome up there, and thanks for coming down.
Seeing no further announcements or introductions, Madam Majority Leader. Oh, reports of committees of reference.
Committee on Appropriations, after consideration on the merits, committee recommends the following bills be amended as so amended, be referred to the Committee of the Whole. Favorite recommendation: House Bills 1036, 1102, 1118, 1144, 1175, 1202, 1205, 1317. The following bills be referred to the Committee of the Whole. Favorite recommendation: House Bill 1333, 1309, 1304, 1294. And 1162, and the following bills be postponed indefinitely. House Bill 1318, 1306, 1158, and 1154.
Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move the following bills be added to the bottom of the special orders calendar today at 10:29. And the bills are House Bill 1066, House Bill 1279, House Bill 1317, House Bill 1036, House Bill 1118, House Bill 1144, House Bill 1162, House Bill 1202, House Bill 1333, House Bill 1304, House Bill 1344, House Bill 1322, House Bill 1175, House Bill 1205, House Bill 1294, House Bill 1309, House Bill 1349, Senate Bill 163, and Senate Bill 160.
Seeing no objection, the bills listed by the Majority Leader will be added to the special orders calendar as the Majority Leader requested. We will proceed to our next order of business, special orders, second reading of bills. Representative Lee. Seeing no objection, the House resolves itself in the Committee of the Whole for consideration of special orders. Representative Lee will take the chair.
The committee will come to order. With your unanimous consent, the bills will be read by title unless there is a request for a reading of bill at length. Committee amendments will not be read, and as they are printed in your bill folders, floor amendments will be shown on the screen and not read unless requested. Bills will be laid over upon motion of the Majority Leader, and the Colt rule is relaxed. Mr. Kohler, please read the title of House Bill 1269.
House Bill 1269, Representatives Court and Williams, also Senator Johnston, concerning the circumstances under which a person who sells items subject to sales tax must collect such sales tax on behalf of the state.
Representative Court.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, we have House Bill 1269. I move House Bill 1269.
To the bill.
I don't think, did we have a?
Do you have a finance report?
Oh, yeah. Sorry, yes. And the Finance Committee report. I apologize.
To the Finance Committee report, Representative Court.
Thank you. The Finance Committee report was a strike below, and so we're talking about the strike below that we passed out of the Finance Committee. It's Amendment 009. So that's what we're talking about. That was the Finance Committee report. So I move the Finance Committee report. I know, I already did.
Is there any further discussion on the Finance Committee report? Seeing none, all in favor of the passage of the Finance Committee report signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? No. The Finance Committee report passes. To the bill. Representative Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And members, on House Bill 1269, you know, this bill was introduced at the request of Colorado retailers, both large and small, brick and mortar shops that make up the backbone of the state's economy, and the sales tax base. They're hurting. Every year, more and more people are shopping online. The retailers that I've talked to have no problem competing with online companies, and they know it is a new reality of business. However, they should compete on a level playing field. Colorado's laws need to be updated and strengthened to address the new reality of retail businesses in the state and around the world. House Bill 1269 is very simple and straightforward to accomplish this. Currently, only online companies are enjoying a competitive advantage through what they can only be described as our tax system. Very large on-time retailers clearly do business in Colorado, and they have established here some of the tens of millions of dollars in sales they are claiming with a straight face and have no taxable presence in the state. Nexus can and should be defined as clearly as possible to reflect how business is done now and in the future. As the retail logistics become more sophisticated, we can no longer assume that just because a company's headquarters isn't based here, that they have no presence. The emergence of drop shipping, warehouses, third-party installation, and maintenance for products create a great convenience for consumers, which is a good thing. It also creates physical presence in the state for companies who would otherwise not be available to offer those services. House Bill 1269 simply clarifies and defines those activities that create a nexus and therefore require the retailer to collect the sales tax and to remit it to the state on our brick and mortar and retailers. If you'll look at the list that has been displayed on the overhead, these are the companies, retailers, small businesses all over the state who support marketplace fairness. Currently, that's a burden that is left to customers who rarely know that they owe a sales tax on items purchased online when they aren't assessed the tax at the point of sale. So I just want to give you one example. Currently, a customer can take advantage of a great service offered by an online retailer, an in-home television installation. On some sites, appointments are available 7 days a week, 365 days a year nationwide. Everyone can agree that this is a benefit to consumers. We can also agree that the company offering this service is more likely to be partnering with a third-party installation service-based business in Colorado and doing business here. That clearly creates a market within the states that should create this nexus. All House Bill 1269 does is to make sure that the partners like these are clearly defined in statute and so that there is no ambiguity. If you are doing business in this state, you should be collecting and remitting sales taxes in the state, just like retailers who are based here. Colorado retailers are desperate for relief from this inequity. Hundreds of small businesses have signed on in our support of this effort, and we have all businesses in our districts that we know that are impacted by this dynamic. Jewelers, local bookstores, hunting and fishing and supply stores. It doesn't matter. Dozens of states have fixed this problem with bipartisan support. I hope that you will help us support local businesses as well and make sure that we're not picking the winners and the losers among the retail community in Colorado, and I ask you for an aye vote.
Seeing Representative Court.
I was just going to say that that list that was up there is from all over the state, small businesses who feel that they should not have unfair competition. I ask for an aye vote.
Representative Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And members, one more item I'd like for you to consider, and you'll see it in your folders, is that Legislative Council staff has estimated that a total of $67.7 million in uncollected sale taxes that may be affected by this bill. $67 million in sale taxes. And this represents a maximum amount of the general fund that can be collected, and I ask you for an aye vote.
Representative Court.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mostly, folks, what this does is say that the Department of Revenue has the presumption that if you are already having an established nexus, that you have the obligation to collect and remit. That's what this bill does. The Attorney General's office is neutral and would defend the bill if we pass it. So with that, I ask for an aye vote.
Representative McCann.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just had a question. It looks like there was a strike below in finance.
009.
Yes, and so I wondered what the reasoning was. It seems that the strike below weakened the original bill, so I just didn't know what had happened to the original bill, which I liked.
Representative Court.
Thank you. And thank you for that question. Yes, we had a very extensive hearing in the Finance Committee. We heard from many, many, many people, and we tried to revise the bill based on the concerns that we heard. So that's why we did the strike below, and it is less than the introduced bill, but it still creates the presumption so that the Department of Revenue has the authority to require the collection of the sales tax from those that have established nexus.
Representative Stevens.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Representative Court, because this bill has gone through so many strike belows, where did you land on A, describing nexus, what constitutes nexus, and number two, the rebuttable presumption? Because what this does now is change presumption. So what I want to know is A, how do you describe your nexus, what constitutes nexus, and how did this bill change from your first version? In other words, I read your first version and I didn't have a strike below till literally day before yesterday. So tell me how that all works itself out.
Representative Court.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Okay, so the reason, as I said a moment ago, that we made all the revision was we heard a great deal of testimony, and many people felt that the affiliates were going to be unfairly penalized. So we listened to them and we took affiliates out, because we didn't want to hurt those small businesses.
Affiliates meaning what?
Affiliates, people who have a what do you call it, pass-through on their computer. So if I am a small business and I do a pass-through to an online retailer, and then I'm an affiliate, I'm not an employee of theirs, but I am so I have the pass-through. So those people came and said they felt this would hurt their small business. So we said, okay, we'll exclude you. And then the AG had a couple of concerns about a decision called Quill, and so we removed language that the AG was concerned about. So we got them comfortable with the bill. So those were the two things that we did. Now, the establishment of nexus is already in law. It's and we didn't change that per se, except we were going to include the affiliates, but we didn't. But already in law, in Section 3926.102 are the definitions of nexus on the first page of the strike below, and that's already in law. So we didn't change that either.
Representative Stevens.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. So, Representative Court, in terms of Nexus and how this affects Quill, because I just don't think most people, and I understand the AG's concerns, but the AG defends you anyway. They're required to defend you in the law. So it's not like the AG's office is neutral. The AG's office has to do whatever they're told to do in terms of defending you or your bill. So what I want to know is, in terms of the Quill decision, what happened? Because we had an argument, we had a, let's not call it an argument, discussion last year. This bill is being debated federally. What are we doing in Colorado then that establishes or is different for us as a state as opposed to what is trying to be accomplished federally? And for those who, on my side of the aisle, who may perhaps remember last year's debate on this, there is a federal bill that the U.S. Senate voted on that requires, it's called the Marketplace Fairness Act, okay? And that's because the court said states, in terms of taxation, this was a Commerce Clause issue, that we need to have this handled federally. So you are going to see groups like Walmart and Target and other retail groups moving to have this passed federally. And actually what the court said is they put a hold on the Colorado state law. So what I want to know today is
Representative Stevens, can you hold on for just a second?
Certainly, Mr. Chair.
Members, could we keep the noise level a little bit lower? It's hard to hear in the well. Thank you. Please proceed, Representative Stevens.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. So what I'm trying to ascertain is, what does this state law do now, if we pass this, versus what's happening federally? And number two, why are we doing it? Because I see this revised fiscal, and I'm going, you had 67 million you thought you were collecting, and now, which I find hard to believe, and we'll go into that after. But now it says we have an indeterminate revenue increase. See, and so now we don't know. We thought we were going to have 67, but now the new fiscal says, geez, we don't know. So what is this bill doing that's going to be different from what we established and with what our speaker did last year in terms of supporting the federal law?
Representative Court.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. What this bill does, as I said a moment ago, is create the presumption that if the nexus that exists in law is there, the Department of Revenue has the authority to go to that company and say you are required to collect and remit. So it creates the presumption for the Department of Revenue. That's what it does, to go ahead and collect and require the remittance of those sales taxes. That's what it does.
Representative Stevens.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair. And I understand the speaker's here, too, because we passed a bill that would have adjusted his date in terms of marketplace fairness federally. But here's my issue. So we've changed the presumption. And the reason I bring this up is because federally, all of these groups are supporting the federal version of this bill. I would be very hard pressed, but I'm checking now no, they don't. Okay. I've had a number of our members call some of these people that you just named off over here to see if they support the state bill, and they're saying no. Okay. Now, why would small businesses say no? Representative Court, what I think, when we change the presumption, what we've just done is allow the Department of Revenue, this is not a small business protection. It seems to me, correct me if I'm wrong, that this is a small business witch hunt. Because what this does is allow the Department of Revenue to jump in and go to a small online business and say, hey, we think you got Nexus here. And by the way, we'd like to see those forms. We'd like to see those sales slips like www.bikini.com. And we think that you have Nexus here. And actually now we think we need to go in and audit or find out if you're paying your sales and use tax. Because we changed the presumption, because we changed it, it creates a rebuttable presumption here in the fiscal of physical presence for out-of-state retailers. So if I'm Jan's Jewelry and I'm selling all over the place, or I'm Jan's Jewelry in another state, but I've got people here, Guys, what we've done is open up the door for DOR to have a heyday with small business. I don't see how this is a small business protection.
Representative Court.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, we all know that I just celebrated a birthday, and I'm glad that Representative Stevens can still shop at www.bikini.com. I sure can't. But that aside, as far as that list is concerned, that was given to us by the Retail Council, so I can't speak to why they would say they don't. But I think the Speaker wants to answer your other question.
Yes, certainly. Thank you.
Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Representative Stevens. Always a pleasure. A few things. One, you're right. We need a federal solution to this. But as we all know, the feds and Congress in particular does nothing these days. So if we're waiting for a federal solution, we might be waiting until my daughter is, in a nursing home. So, I mean, I understand in the bill we passed last year, and actually there's a bill up today to clarify some things on that. But I think when you look at the case law, what is going on throughout the states, throughout the district courts, courts of appeals, the Quill decision, which is what we cite when we talk about this, is being, I wouldn't say gutted, but being nuanced as the district courts are looking at it. If you look at other states who've moved to this kind of issue and looked at what this bill proposes, 30 states in this country are currently collecting sales tax from online retailers because of nexuses like that are in this bill. And when we talk about who we're looking at, there's a $50,000 exemption in this bill. That is in line with when you look at our proportion of sales in the country, when you look at the federal legislation around $1 million or I think $2 million in exemption, that fits in terms of where we would be.
But we should talk about that.
And then the other piece, and I think where we're really is, if it looks like a duck, it acts like a duck, it's a duck. And if it has nexus, it should have nexus. And so there are big companies like Amazon, Overstock. This isn't really about small companies. And actually what this is doing is trying to protect our small companies that are here in Colorado investing in our state. But it's those big companies who pretty much, when you look at what they have with business relationships, whether it's through shipping, whether it's through storage, they have so much nexus that the decisions in the courts have said they have nexus. But DOR doesn't have the power to be able to go and say, yes, you do have nexus, this is why. This bill gives them the ability to go and say, here are those business relationships you have that are causing you to have nexus here in Colorado. That means you should be collecting the tax. In 30 states, this tax is being collected. And as you've heard and will continue to hear, this tax is owed. It's not like this tax isn't owed. I think we all agree on that. It's owed by people, yes. But, and I've had constituents and others, and we talked the other day, this actually will make it easier on individuals because individuals will just pay the taxes when they purchase it instead of having to fill out the forms in their tax returns and keep track of this, of how much they owe in use tax, which is what we all should do. Most of us don't do a good job of it. But this is a tax that is owed. It's a simple way to do it. As more and more sales go online, this bill gives DOR the ability to enforce the laws that we already have on the books around where there's a nexus. I think this is a good bill. I do understand and where the support of the federal level. I would love to see Congress act and solve this problem, but for Congress to actually solve a problem these days, I'd be shocked. So I think, as you know, and I think there's other people in this chamber who might disagree on things, but we know that the states are the ones leading progress in our country. It's not the federal government. So I think we should stand up for states' rights and support this bill.
States' taxes, yes, okay, yes.
Representative
yes.
Stevens.
Mr. Speaker, maybe Cory Gardner can change all that for us. I don't know. We'll have to see. Okay. Okay.
Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And just to talk about that, I believe Senator Udall, our great senator from the state of Colorado, voted for the national reform bill in the Congress, where it's stuck in the House, and the Republican majority in the House of Representatives won't bring it up for a vote in the House.
Yes.
Which
the protector of taxpayers, by the way. Thank you very much. Yes, the protector of taxpayers right here. There we go.
Representative Stevens.
Yes, well, thank you very much. So, members, engaged in this lively debate, the Speaker is correct in the issue of how we're dealing in Nexus, okay? What constitutes a company being here? What is that? Is it a warehouse that means the company's here? Is it that I have a P.O. box that the company's here? This is what's been debated on. But let me tell you where I believe right now and where I see the problem. Well, first of all, we called Christian Used Books, Mr. Edward Cook, whose name was put up here, from Inglewood. He didn't even know about the bill, said he doesn't support such a bill. Guys, I don't want us to be misled by this kind of stuff. I don't want us to be misled that somehow all these small businesses are just clamoring for the Department of Revenue to knock on their door now and claim that they have a presumptive physical presence in this state. Our small businesses, guys, they're not clamoring for that, okay? What this allows, and this is where these are where our tax accountants and people who deal with commerce and industry are very upset over this, is that if you are a small business and you jump in, Department of Revenue comes to your door. Hello, we think you have a physical presence here. What is it you have to do? Because if you didn't have an attorney, you suddenly have to hire one. If you, as Jan's Jewelry or Mr. Edward Cook, who doesn't know a thing about this bill, but his name was put up here, if you're at the Christian Used Bookstore, okay? Hello, Mr. Cook. We think you have Nexus, and we're here to check your books. What does this guy got to do? He's got to hire an attorney. They're going to go through everything. They're going to go through everything at Rose Duds, at Animus Training, the boarding house, mountain bike specialist. That's what's going to happen. Do you think those guys have money to spend months with the Department of Revenue on this? I don't think so. I don't think so. What this bill did, and guys, you and I have seen this. I thank God for some historic memory in this place. I was here when we first argued this bill. You were not here. You were not here. And here's the deal. At the time, Department of Revenue said, oh, we are going to bring in all this revenue. This state, oh my gosh, just like this little 67 million DREAM Act over here that they thought they would dream up. 67 mil. No one is bringing in 67 mil. The Department of Revenue sent me, I have the letters, I'll bring them on up here. Department of Revenue sent me a letter saying, oh, you know what? Remember that dirty dozen tax that you guys passed like in 2010 okay, no one in Department of Revenue could tell us what we'd made off the Amazon tax. Not a soul. Not a soul. But boy, we were supposed to bring in 12 million. And that evaporated into nothing. So, guys, on this issue, we don't know. We don't know. This is puff money. Don't be telling me 67 million, we're all in the chips. No, that's not going to happen. And number two, what you've just done is set up the Department of Revenue as the witch hunter to small businesses to go in and say, we think you've got Nexus here, and we don't have to prove it. Mr. Christian Used Bookstore, you got to prove it. You have to prove it. Folks, that is not pro-small business. Now, that might be pro-Amazon or pro-Walmart or pro-Kohl's because they can hire 1 million tax attorneys. They've got bright minds there. They can all get away with it. All the big boxes and everybody who are big online dealers, they can get away with it. But you, small business, you don't get away with it. You have to hire attorneys you can't afford. You're going to spend hours with the Department of Revenue because they're going to come knocking at your door. Members, I think this is very misguided. I understand what they're trying to do, but members, and they're going to say, oh, we're owed. Hey, listen, you and I owe this stuff, but we're going after the retailers to get them to pay it. I get, let's shift that. But at the end of the day, this presumptive change, it's going to hurt the small businesses. It's not going to hurt Amazon. It's not going to hurt Walmart. Not going to hurt Target. Not going to hurt Kohl's. It's going to hurt these folks here at Spa, Fedor, Heritage Cards, April's Garden, Durango Toy Depot. That's who it's going to hurt. Folks, this is bad news. I say vote no.
Representative Court.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members, I just want to be real clear. That list was given to us by the Retail Council, so we apologize if it was an inaccurate list. We didn't call every single one of them and ask them if they wanted their names on that list. The lobbyist with whom we worked on this bill gave us that list. So I want to publicly apologize to anyone whose name was there that didn't want their name on it, but that is the Retail Council's list that they gave us. So we apologize if there's anyone on that didn't want to be on it. Bring it up with the Retail Council. They're the ones who gave us the list. Thank you.
Is there any further discussion on House Bill 1269? Mr. Minority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think Representative Stevens did a pretty good job of kind of going over what this bill actually does now. I know Representative Williams and Representative Court did a good job of explaining what the original bill did. But simply, all this bill does now is it changes the presumption of guilt now to the taxpayer. So we all agree if you should be paying taxes, legally you're supposed to pay taxes, you should pay taxes. But what this does now is it basically is going to put, in Department of Revenue, we asked them several times, give us an example, one example of what business, what entity somewhere out there that now, because of this law, you'll be able to go out and collect tax from somebody now because there was some kind of, it was ambiguous on whether or not they should pay, not pay. Give us one example of where you might go after somebody now to collect tax. And they could not do that. So basically now the way this bill is set up is it changes the presumption of guilt to the taxpayer. So you could have the small mom and pop place. It could be more than 50,000, less than 50,000. They don't know. But they'll send you a nasty gram that said, hey, by the way, we think you should have been paying tax. And now, as Representative Stevens says, now you have to go out, hire a lawyer, because now you're the guilty party. So it's not up to the Department of Revenue anymore like it is now to prove that you had to pay. Now it is up to you to go battle through and say, wait, no, I made less than 50,000, or wait, I didn't really have a nexus. And so you have to take all of that time out of running your business and the cost of hiring a lawyer team or going through all the extra accounting, everything that is, to defend yourself, even though you're innocent. That is the only thing that this bill does, is it means that you, the taxpayer, are now guilty until proven innocent. That is the only thing the bill does now. If you'll notice, the original bill was in a certain form. There were 2 to 3 different strike belows that changed all of that. Everything that was brought up as the conversation before, that, well, we need to get all these bad people that aren't paying taxes, we need to do this, this is about fair, this is about protecting small business. How does it protect the small business to say that now you are guilty in the eyes of the Department of Revenue? How does that protect the small business? A small business that's going to be drugged through the ringer by the Department of Revenue, how does that help a small business? Can anyone explain that? You can't. So changing the presumption of guilt to the taxpayer, I believe, is wrong, and I urge a no vote on this bill.
Representative Scott.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I am one of those small businesses that has had to deal with this exact problem. I can't hear. Give him that.
Members, could we have some attention to the well, please? It's pretty loud. Thank you.
I am one of those small business owners that has dealt with this problem. I have dealt with the Department of Revenue walking into my office in Grand Junction, Colorado. It was a great time. He interrupted a meeting that I was having opened his badge as if he owned my business and said we had something to talk about. I had to excuse my customers to have a chat with this gentleman about what he wanted. Number one, he had absolutely no idea what the H he was doing. And he stood there and said, well, we think that we have a problem with some tax issues. Now, the problem was that we shipped a product from Canada to the great city of Denver. And the great city of Denver had told us that because it had been shipped from out of state, that there was not a tax issue. We did not owe City and County of Denver tax. The state of Colorado took exception to that and decided that they thought we did owe tax. That cost me $2,000 in attorney's fees for about a week's worth of work to prove that I was right. This is not a good idea. Now, I have welcomed those gentlemen back to my office, and I have also told them if they show back up again in the position that they did last time, flashing their little badge of the Department of Revenue, that we're going to have a major issue on their hands. Because that's what they do to business owners, folks. I'm one of them. I am one of them. They have no problem doing this. They don't care. They're on a revenue grab. Let me tell you another quick little secret. The other thing that they do is that they scour the Secretary of State's website looking for businesses who have not stopped and have not deleted their business from the database. Now, these people tried hard, they went out of business for whatever reasons. The last thing they're going to do is go on the Secretary of State's website, spend $25 and make their business inactive. So the Department of Revenue will go through those records. They will find those businesses that still show active, but they are not showing any activity. They haven't done business for a year. They will then calculate a bill. They will send it to that business owner who's no longer in business and say, we think you owe X thousands of dollars in revenue. And you are now guilty. You are told you are now guilty. Figure out how to show us you're innocent. So you could have been out of business for years. The Department of Revenue will send you that letter. They will send an agent to your door. They've done it to me. It can happen, folks. I am not joking. Find other places for revenue if you're that desperate. Find other places to get revenue. This is a money grab. That's all it is. We need more money for programs. That's all this is just nothing but a grab for business people's money. I would suggest that the Speaker come down and spend some quality time with me.
Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. I was walking back to my office and I just heard the comment and kind of shocking to me. So, one, this is money that the consumers, the purchasers owe on taxes. Just like if you go to a store and you buy, if you go to a store, okay, let's just start. You go to Tattered Cover and you buy the new Bill O'Reilly book that you love so much, you're going to pay sales tax on it. But
that is a good book, actually.
Great. Not one I'll read, but I bought it before because my grandmother and grandpa like that book. But if you go on Amazon and buy that, you don't pay your tax. But you actually owe the tax under state law. It's called use tax. Now, it's not the business's money. It's the tax that you as the consumer owe for the purchase. That's how we collect taxes. So the business doesn't owe the money. The consumer owns the money. The business actually is the facilitator to pay the state. That's why we have the vendor fee to offset the cost of collecting that taxation. And we pay businesses to actually collect that tax. And so this is not a burden. This is not on business. It's not their money grabbing money from businesses. This is taxes that are owed to the state. And This is not a new tax, it's owed. You owe the tax, you owe it through use tax. All we're debating here really is the collection method of the taxation. No one can argue that this tax isn't owed. So it's an issue of how do you collect the tax? So making sure that the DOR has the ability to provide and look at nexus to say, well, if you have nexus, you then have the responsibility to collect this tax that's owed to the state. That's what this bill does. So for the time when you go to Amazon and buy the Bill O'Reilly book you love so much, they should collect the tax so that you don't, when you go fill your state income tax, have to file the report that says this is how much I spent online and this is the tax rate I owe and paid for that. Because you owe it. And for the average consumer, the state doesn't do anything about it because it's a couple bucks, 50, 100 bucks. But for some huge people, it's huge, and the state does actually go after them because it is owed. So the question is not about, business trying to take businesses' money because it has nothing to do with business money. It's not about collecting a new tax. What it is about is collecting existing owed taxes in the best method possible to help consumers and to not give an unfair advantage to online retailers versus the homegrown businesses on your main street in Grand Junction and the tattered cover here. The tattered cover wants to compete with Amazon. But when Amazon can be at a 2.9% price advantage, a consumer like you or I, who are smart people, will take that 2.9 advantage, of course. But you still owe that tax. And most of us don't pay it. What we're saying is, no, you owe that, so let's collect it in the way that you collect it for a normal store. And if you have Nexus, you have responsibility to collect it. So it's not a money grab to business. This is about collecting an owed tax.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for that. Oh, I'm sorry.
Representative Scott.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for that clarification. I don't know what I would have done without you up here. I mean, I really do appreciate the fact that you cleared up a book that I might buy. Thank you very much. But what I'm talking about is not only books. I'm talking about, in my business, commercial products. In other words, when I sell a $50,000 fireplace to Ocean Prime Restaurant, the Department of Revenue is not saying, I'm coming in to check on whether you bought a book or not. They're coming in to check on everything. They broad brush stroke. And I don't see where it's defined in this bill that they're going to leave that alone. So if the sponsors would clear that up for me, I'm sure that the Speaker and I can kumbaya.
Representative Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And Representative, thank you for the question that you have. And while it's not outlined in the bill, let's be clear. This is not business to business. And if I understand you correctly, you're describing a business to business transaction. This is consumer to business. Do you understand? This is not business to business. It's consumer to business. And we'll be happy to outline that for you in the bill, and I'm going to ask for an aye vote.
Representative Stevens.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair. And yes, Rep. Williams, I would like you to outline that for me, and here's why. So, members, when members, you have to understand on the issue of nexus what's going on, because Denver County itself has a number of taxing jurisdictions, okay? This is why when they tried to pass this bill, and did pass this bill in 2010 under the Dirty Dozen, it was declared a violation of the Commerce Clause by the court. And the law was put on hold. Now, the question is going to be, in other words, this isn't just, oh, for the protection of the consumer. Folks, when you have a store that's here with a physical presence, your taxes go to paying, if I set, God help us, but if I did set Barnes & Noble on fire, let's say, we have the fire trucks that come, the police come, they arrest me, the DA's got to show up. Your taxes and all this kind of stuff have to pay for a physical presence here. Not so on online. That's not the case. And we've had this historic argument about what constitutes nexus. What this bill does is put a presumptive guilt on small businesses and says, we're going to come in. The question I have to ask is, under the federal law, businesses would be given the software to do what they need to do. They were given $1 million exemption, but the software would be provided by the state. Representatives Williams and Court, are small businesses here going to be given software by the state because it's only a $50,000 exemption? It's only a $50,000 exemption. You see, the question, friends, is, if this is owed by all of us, our Department of Revenue and our taxers, like they did in Illinois, should say, Ray Scott, you owe X amount of dollars personally on sales and use. You got to pay up. But we don't do that. We go after Joe's Jewelry or Joe's Marketplace to get that money. I understand that. Our speaker's talking about if you get on Amazon, you get it free. If you go here, you got to pay the tax. At the end of the day, what this bill does, the version, the third strike below version that we're dealing with here, what it says is you have presumptive guilt unless you can prove differently. And so what I want to know for small businesses is the state going to provide the software for all these small businesses, because $50,000 isn't a lot, like the federal bill that was, is the state going to provide the software?
Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And just 2 points. One, right now when you are paying your sales tax, you remit it online through software that the Department of Revenue provides. This would be no different. And two, this fallacy of an argument that because you have a store here, you benefit from the taxes we pay. But if you don't, then you don't benefit from the taxes. So I'm just wondering, I guess they have those helicopters they're testing, but when Amazon uses a shipper who sends something to a house, how do they get to that place? Because I'm pretty sure they go through the streets and the highways we build, and they stop at the stoplights, and if they get into an accident, they use our court system. So if they get in an accident, they go to the hospital and they use the EMTs and the ambulance. So I understand there's a little bit of a difference, but to say that an online retailer who's not located here doesn't benefit from our taxes, I mean, if they got flying cars that don't use gas, that don't use roads.
You mean drones? Is that what you're saying? Drones? Okay.
But they use gas.
If they can get over, what is it, the city in Colorado that'll shoot them down? Yes, okay. If they can get past them.
I'm just saying that if we're going to have an argument that online retailers who actually have a nexus here don't use our tax benefit or don't benefit from the taxes that are paid, then you tell me how they get to deliver things without using the roads that are paid for by the taxes that we pay. Just wondering.
Oh, Mr. Speaker.
Representative Stevens.
This is the no spin zone right here, okay? This is the no spin zone. So, members, the issue on who's using our roads and everything else, and that we don't pay the taxes and we're not paying the taxes. Let's go back to the group that who pretty much don't even know they're in this list here. So let's pick out another really good one. How about the custom foot? Let's pick the custom foot out here. Okay. If custom foot only clears $50,000, custom foot is going to get the knock on the door from the IRS, from the Department of Revenue to say, we think you owe tax. We think you have nexus in this state. The question I have to say is, the presumption is on Custom Foot to have to prove to DOR, not the other way around. DOR doesn't have to prove to Custom Foot they've got nexus. They have to prove. They have to prove. Guys, presumptive, if you're telling me, Rep. Court, that rebuttable presumption, Mr. Minority Leader, I think what we're seeing here is someone saying rebuttable presumption of physical presence for out-of-state retailers. So if Mr. Out-of-State Retailer has to prove this, guys, what are you doing? Out-of-state, I get that. I get it. out of state. But these guys sell all over. And the question's going to be, in the federal legislation, there was software to help them. There's software to help them. Under our laws, what are we going to do for small business? What are we going to do for them? What are we going to do to help them? Because under the federal law, they got that. Rep. Court, do you want to answer my question?
Representative Court.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Okay, I want to be real clear. This has nothing to do with the collection of sales tax from our small businesses. They do it now. So
Yes,
the list
correct.
we put up there that we got from the Retail Council was small businesses in the state who are already collecting and remitting, and they have the process with the DOR.
Who
and that's
clearly
all
don't
going
support
on.
this, right? I mean, they don't even know about this.
Excuse me, but we already apologized for that. That's what the Retail Council told us. So I apologize if they didn't want, some of them didn't, but the Retail Council told us they were. So that's another discussion. But I want to be real clear.
So software.
This is not about the small business bricks and mortar in Colorado. This is about out of state that sell online into Colorado, collecting and remitting the sales tax which we, the consumers, owe. It is already in law. We are not changing that at all. I ask for an aye vote.
Yes, thank you.
Representative Stevens.
Yes, but I still do not have the answer on, we're asking out of state. In the federal law, what we've provided for is the software. So now small businesses, I'm asking, under the federal law, if passed, they get software. But we're just saying, no, sorry, just pay up. Is this correct? That all you have to do is answer yes or no. It's really not that difficult. Federal law, if the federal bill that passed the Senate says you get software to help do this. Okay, so we don't want to answer now. Is this what we're doing? We don't know. We're just sitting down. Okay. So Rep. Williams, we don't have the answer to that, or do we? You know the answer. What is the answer? Rep. Kagan, do you know the answer? Great. Come on up.
Representative Kagan.
Mr. Chair, a brick and mortar store, not an online seller, a brick and mortar store has the obligation to collect and remit the sales tax. The brick and mortar store has the obligation to organize its software for the collection and remittance of the sales tax. What this bill says is, if you want to sell in Colorado, sell to Colorado, and you have some physical presence here, you must also collect and remit the sales tax, just as your colleagues in the same industry do if they have a brick and mortar store here. Now, your question was, do they get lots of help from the point of view of getting software? Do the brick and mortar stores get the Department of Revenue's help in setting up their online systems? They don't, nor should anybody else. I mean, the fact of the matter is, they have the obligation to collect and remit because they are physically present in Colorado, they are doing business here, and if the brick and mortar stores have to do it and they have to organize it, why shouldn't the other out-of-state shippers have to do the same thing? It's a matter of playing fair and not giving an unfair advantage to out-of-Colorado businesses that the in-Colorado businesses don't have. Our in-Colorado brick-and-mortar stores are crying out for this because they are fed up of trying to compete with out-of-state shippers that don't play by the same rules that they play by. That's not fair. It's not good for Colorado. It's not good for Colorado's small businesses. They know it. They want this, and we should give it to them.
Representative Stevens.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Rep. Kagan. So the answer is no, we won't have software for them. And so we're back to the small business witch hunt. And members, I just have to say that, I go to the Council on State Taxation, the regional conferences. I've been there, I've seen them. And I get it. We're the squeeze the blood out of a turnip any way, shape, or form we can. This isn't just about brick and mortar. I know people say it is. Really, this is about going after entrepreneurship, ingenuity,
It's about not helping them. It really is about a small business witch hunt. Members, I'd encourage us to vote no on this bill. I think that that the federal legislation had set up some good, fair standards on small business and what it is to help them. I don't think that this bill at all does it. I think that this bill is a big bucks attempt to try to get something going here in Colorado, and I oppose it.
Is there any further discussion on House Bill 1269? Mr. Minority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I kind of got lost over the last half an hour discussion there, but it was commenting on what the Speaker said earlier about this bill is simply about collecting taxes from people who owe tax. That is not what this bill does. All of the other stuff that was talked about might have been in the original bill, but it is not in this bill now. The only thing left in this bill after the strike below is changing the presumption. The presumption to where it is now, that if you have a nexus or you should have been collecting tax, the Department of Revenue needs to go through and then figure out, okay, Del Grosso Inc. should have been collecting tax, but it's up to the Department of Revenue to prove that I actually had nexus, that I actually was doing more than $50,000 or whatever it is that makes it to where I should have been collecting that tax. After this bill, it changes the nexus or the presumption that I am now guilty. So instead of the Department of Revenue proving that I was supposed to do that, now it is up to me to prove that I shouldn't have been doing that. So that means that I could be that small business person that we're saying that we're trying to protect, who has been doing everything correctly by the book and then by our laws, should have not been collecting tax. But now I get a nasty gram from the Department of Revenue, and now I have to stop my business, I have to stop what I'm doing, and I have to go and hire an attorney and fight the Department of Revenue. And I don't know you, maybe you've all dealt with the Department of Revenue and it's been a pleasant experience and you've been in and out in a minute. But the reality is, for most business owners, that is not the case. So now this just changes that presumption that the businesses are now guilty. And so it is up to you to prove that what you are doing was correct. That is all this bill does. So all of this other protecting the small brick and mortar, protecting this, collecting taxes, this bill does not do that. It just changes the presumption of guilt to where the Department of Revenue has to prove that you were supposed to. Now it is up to you to prove that you are innocent. That is why I urge a no vote.
Is there any further discussion on House Bill 1269? Seeing none, the question before us is the passage of House Bill 1269. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. No. The ayes have it. House Bill 1269 is passed. Mr. Kohler, please read the title of House Bill 1320.
House Bill 1320 by Representative Vigil concerning an increase in the minimum time period between filings for a finding of reasonable diligence regarding the adjudication of a conditional water right.
He's coming. Speak slow. I see Representative Vigil on the way.
Representative Vigil, we look forward to House Bill 1320. Representative Vigil.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move House Bill 1320 and the Agricultural Committee report.
To the Appropriations Committee report, Representative Vigil.
That would be the Agricultural Committee report, Mr. Chair.
Agriculture.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
To the Agriculture Committee report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. What we did in Ag Committee was amend the bill to read that it should go from 10 years to 8 years, and another amendment that says that anyone who has a court case pending before the court will not get jumped ahead of the line, but it would rather just stay in the queue and any new cases would not be affected until the new law came into effect after August the 6th. And that's the committee report. And ask for an aye vote.
Is there any further discussion on the committee report? Seeing none, all in favor of the Agricultural Committee report, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The Agricultural Committee report is adopted. Representative Vigil to the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, I bring you a really simple water bill. All it does is it changes it from 6 years to 8 years as amended. And this is a good water bill, good policy bill. And what it does, it changes, it deals with conditional water rights. Conditional water rights are placeholders in the priority system pending placement of the water to beneficial use. And conditional water rights encourage us to put in Colorado's water resources to beneficial use by allowing the applicant to adequate time to complete financing, engineering, and necessary infrastructure with the certainty that if the plan succeeds, the applicant will be able to secure an absolute water right. Beneficial uses under Colorado water law include livestock watering, agriculture, irrigation, augmentation, fishery, recreational, domestic fire protection, dust suppression, prevention of environmental aesthetic values, mining, wildlife maintenance, and enhancements. In order to maintain a conditional water right, Colorado law requires that an applicant for a finding of reasonable diligence towards the application of water rights to the beneficial use be periodically and timely filed with the Water Court. House Bill 1320 does not change any of those requirements for demonstrating diligence. Prior to 1969, there was no set period for diligence applications. In 1969, the General Assembly set the time period at every 2 years. The time frame was increased to 4 years in 1974 and then increased to every 6 years in 1990. Since then, no changes have been made to the diligent filing timeline since the 1990 legislation. The change to 6 years reflects the increasing time and complexities required to address all the physical, financial, and legal issues required as one puts water to beneficial use, as well as the cost savings and efficiencies for the state judicial system extensions. This change to 8 years further recognizes the increase of the complexities. House Bill 1320 extends the timeline for filing the applications for reasonable diligence from 6 to 8 years to lessen the burden of Colorado farmers, irrigation companies and districts, courts, DNR, local governments, and others to file the act of applications to better reflect actual timeframes for progress on water right developments. By extending the conditional water rights diligence filings from 8 to 8 years, House Bill 1320 will provide two benefits. One, the water project will take up to 20, water projects often taking up to 20 years, given current requirements for environmental impact statements, financing, and engineering work. 8 years is a much more realistic time frame to show diligence in developing the conditional water rights. Based on the average caseload for Water Court in Water Division 1 in 2002 to 2012, this proposal could lessen Water Court burden by an average of 25%, saving Colorado farmers, irrigation companies, and districts, and other taxpayers critical dollars that can be applied to develop the development of water rights instead of court proceedings. And that's basically what my bill does. It's a simple bill, just extends it from 6 to 8 years. The other amendment that went on there, just what that does, nobody gets a pass. Everybody's in the queue right now, stays in the queue, and nobody gets to go before the court for the 8-year period, unless when the new law comes into effect in August 6th, I believe, of 2014.
Representative Fisher.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members, I regret that I have to come down and speak against one of my colleagues' bills. I have the greatest respect for Representative Vigil, and I appreciate his diligence in moving this bill forward. He's been very thoughtful and has done a lot of work on this. Unfortunately, I have to disagree with the premise of the bill and ask for a no vote, which, you know, again, I hate to ask for you to vote no against one of my caucus members, but in this case, the issue about holding conditional water rights is way more complicated than it might first appear on the surface. And as Representative Vigil characterized this as a simple water bill, in my 8 years here in these chambers, there's no such thing as a simple water bill. And this is a case in point. It looks very innocuous on the surface, but ultimately what this bill has the potential to do is allow for greater speculation on a very precious and scarce resource in Colorado, and that's our water supplies. The water, the requirement that a holder of a conditional water right show diligence in proving up that right and leading up to the making that right absolute and putting it to beneficial use is something that is very kind of sacred to the water community. And by passing this bill, I think we undermine a very important doctrine in Colorado water law, and that's the maximum utilization, maximum beneficial use of our water supplies. The longer we allow an entity to hold a conditional water right without showing diligence that they're actually working toward putting that water right to a beneficial use, it just shuts other people who would like to apply for those rights the ability to access that water supply and to put it to a beneficial use. And frankly, there's not enough wet water to even satisfy a fraction of the conditional water rights that are currently held in Colorado. In the Colorado River Basin alone, we heard testimony in committee that there's 1.7 or 1.8 million acre feet of water held in conditional water rights, and many of those, much of that is being held by the oil shale industry. And they currently do not have the ability to put that water to beneficial use. And so I think it would make sense for them to request that they have a longer diligence period to be able to postpone their showing of diligence on these rights. But that's, ladies and gentlemen, that's a huge amount of water that they're sitting on over there, that it's not being allowed, that agricultural producers and municipal and industrial users are not able to put to beneficial use. And so I regret that I have to ask you for a no vote on House Bill 1320. And again, I apologize, Representative Vigil, but I respect your wisdom on water issues and your knowledge on these issues, but I respectfully have to ask for a no vote.
Representative Rankin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Representative Vigil, for carrying this important bill. You know, conditional water rights are very important. They're actually in place so that we can give water planners time to work a project. And sometimes it takes a long time, as much as 20 years, to develop a water project. And these things can be very different depending on what they are and where they are. So I rise in strong support of this bill, and I can tell you the Colorado River Water District, which represents the Yampa, the White, the Colorado River, is strongly in support of this, and it's because of the kind of water rights that we have in the West. First of all, you know, I disagree that this does any harm to the principle of speculation in water. That is preserved in this bill. All this does is save money and court time. And I can tell you, just in the West, there are about 5,000 of these conditional water rights. 85% of them predate 2001. So if you can see the numbers. If they go up for, you know, a reapproval every 6 years, and we're just extending it 2 years, the load on our court system is tremendous. And remember, the water judge shares the docket with the criminal court. So in the 9th Judicial District, this is a big deal. You know, it ties up a lot of court time. And I've actually sat on the commission to evaluate judges and their backlog, and believe me, this is an important issue. And these are not all, I mean, these are held by a variety of entities. The Colorado River District itself holds a number of these conditional rights, and they can be allocated to various uses, including in-stream flows, recreation, agriculture. You know, all varieties of people hold these rights. All we're asking for here is an elimination of the repetitive process in the court system and a saving of money, both for the people that have to go to court and for the judges. I think it's a perfectly reasonable bill, and for my district, it will dramatically increase the workload without damage to the principle of speculation, and it will not delay projects. Believe me, all of these people are working hard, but when you're dealing with the federal government and going through the process, it can easily take 20 years to develop a project. So I think anybody whose projects overlap federal lands and who are on those western streams thinks very differently about conditional rights than maybe the South Platte or the Northern Water District. And we're really looking at a difference in viewpoint here of how different areas and different districts use these conditional rights and how they're applied. I think we do no harm to the other water users in the other districts by implementing this to the benefit of those people who are spending way too much time doing this. Thank you.
Representative Corum.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Representative Vigil, for bringing this bill. This bill is about a district, a group, a section of the state where 20% of the people live, where 80% of the water originates. It's about the economy of that region. Since 2008, we have lost employers. We have been unable to develop jobs because of the economy. Mesa County alone came out last week, the Colorado Jobs reported. Mesa County alone has lost 600 jobs since 2008. 600 employers, not 600 jobs. The salary in Mesa County, Colorado, and I only have the top 10, I don't have all of them, but Mesa County is one of the top 10. Their wages paid in Mesa County are $90 million less than they were in 2008. Folks, I got to tell you, it's a tough economy over there. You know, it's actually so tough that many of the times we can't even afford to pay attention, much like this house. But it is serious, and this is something that we really need to consider. This from 6 years to 8 years on those conditional water rights is a huge factor. It's money. It's money we don't have. Many of those jobs, I would disagree with my colleague, Representative Rankin, because some of those projects have been on the books for 25 years. Because of economic conditions, because of federal regulations, we have been unable to move forward with those projects. So I certainly hope that you will take into consideration. We're not trying to circumvent the law. There is the anti-speculation is still protected in this bill. It's just simply giving a couple of more years to prorate the costs of that project out. So I ask for a yes vote.
Representative Sonnenberg.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members, when it comes to speculation, this is the bill that does it. This allows a 33% longer time frame that you can speculate on water. That's why I'm a no on this bill. Members, essentially what we have here, 6 years was a negotiated time frame in when this started. And if we really want to make a difference, if we really want to make sure that due diligence is done, the conditional water rights are actually being developed and not held from somebody else using them. For example, that farmer on the Gunnison, that the conditional water right is being held so he can't file or has a much junior water right to ag or to water his hay or his meadow. Members, I would ask you to consider and listen. Representative Rankin and Representative Coram talked about projects in the works. The least of their worries on those projects is to prove that they are doing their due diligence. The biggest cost to those projects is the lawsuits with the feds, the lawsuits on the, with regard to impact statements and those type of things. 85% of the water and conditional use permits are prior to 2000, I think, something like that. That tells you there's a lot of water sitting there that needs to be shown that it is actually going to be put to use. Due diligence needs to be utilized, needs to go through that process. I would ask for your no vote on House Bill 1320 so the compromise that is in place of the 6 years for doing the due diligence stays there. Ask for a no vote.
Representative Coram.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And let's talk about that figure that Representative Fisher used, that 1.7 million acre feet. Folks, I got to tell you, there is not a surplus of water on the western slope of Colorado. If there was 1.7 million acre feet of water that was just out in limbo and nobody's using it, we don't have that many reservoirs. The ones we have are about 50% full, if we're lucky. They would be going down the Colorado River. Lake Powell and Lake Mead would not be at a dangerously low levels. That water is conditional water, but it doesn't mean the water is there when you actually prove that water right. So, folks, there's a lot less than 1.7 million acre feet of water available for use.
Representative Lebsack.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members, water speculation is not good water policy, and it's wrong for Colorado. Right now we have in statute, we've got 6 years where a conditional water right holder can work to try to true up or move their conditional water right to beneficial use. That's fair. As Representative Sonnenberg said, that was the negotiated 6 years. We moved from 2 to 4 to 6, I think way back in the 1990s. And so, folks, that's the negotiated number of years that's fair. It's not right to use water speculation in this state. And I'm respectfully asking for a no vote.
Mr. Minority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And Representative Coram, you might be correct that there's a lack of water on the western slope now. But we did pass a bill for low flush toilets, and there will be a plethora of water over there in the future.
Representative Coram.
Thank you, Mr. Minority Leader, but I must disagree with you on this. Once again, the big flushers are on this side.
Representative Rankin.
So let me give you an example. Natural Soda is a company that operates outside of Meeker. They use water and steam to extract baking soda from underground. It is, in fact, the world's largest deposit, the only real deposit of pure baking soda that doesn't have to be refined. They've been sitting on a conditional water right for years to expand their facility and get federal government permission. You know, that's another 50 jobs in Meeker, which is a really big deal. And, you know, they have to go back, continually go back and, you know, go through the court process. Just the fact that we limit that, you know, their ability to hold a conditional water right puts in question their long-term planning. I've talked to them several times about this. I've got a number of agriculture users, water users who are in this category. I mean, it's a very real problem. And don't forget, the court docket is backed up in the 9th Judicial District because one of those judges spends, you know, almost all his time on water court.
Representative Fisher.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't want to belabor this too much, but I did have to respond to what Representative Corum said. I think he misunderstood what I'd said, which is the number of the amount of the volume of water held in conditional water rights on the western slope is about 1.8 million acre feet. My point was there is not enough water to satisfy those rights. So the rivers are over appropriated as they already are. People are holding water in conditional rights for which there's no actual wet water, but they're holding a place in line so that if any water rights, and if they're able to get a project done and actually put water to beneficial use, they'll be the first in line, first in time. So ultimately, there's no way that all these water rights are ever going to get perfected because there's just not enough water. So it's kind of a race to the finish line, and the more we allow people to just sit on those rights is harmful to everyone, I believe. Now, this bill, the idea for the bill came up in the Interim Water Resources Review Committee this past summer and fall. And the idea was shopped around that this would maybe be a bill that we would come out of the Interim Water Committee. There was no bill drafted from the Interim Water Committee on this concept. And so, you know, we chose as a committee not to address this issue this year, but the proponents of the bill have gone ahead with this proposal anyway. And we heard testimony in the Ag Committee that the process for a diligence filing in the water court is not at all onerous unless you're on shaky ground to begin with. If you're a holder of a conditional water right and you haven't been showing diligence, then yes, there will be a lot of opposition to your diligence filing, and it could be quite complicated. But in most cases, when a proponent of a water right is showing diligence, it's a pro forma process where the filing fees are not even that onerous. So I reject the notion that this is tying up the water courts and that it's where the real cost of truing up a conditional water right is in actually doing the work to try to put it to beneficial use, getting the permits, building the infrastructure, building the storage facilities, not in the diligence filing. So again, I ask for a no vote.
Representative Vigil.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, I'd like to clear up a couple of points that have been brought up here. It's been said by some folks up here that this is water speculation. Well, Colorado has no water speculation law. There's no such thing as water speculation in the state of Colorado. And if you think those judges that are seeing these cases are going to stand for that for 1 minute, I think we all have another thing coming. These water conditions, the placeholders, they are held to task. So there is no speculation of water out there. They have to go through the process. It's a process that's got to be gone through, and so that's I'll say about that. The other thing is that folks that are supporting this are the Harmony Ditch Company, Fort Morgan Reservoir and Ditch, Jackson Lake Irrigation Company, Fort Morgan Farms LLC, the Pueblo Board of Water Works, the Arkansas Valley Waterworks. I know that the Denver Water wasn't even tracking this bill, and they're neutral on it. I understand that the Aurora maybe not is okay with the 8 years, and so this is a good bill for those folks that have a lot of water at risk here. Urban water reservoirs are necessary as well as farm reservoirs are necessary, and to build those reservoirs takes years, 20 years, 15 years, 30 years, and so this bill is good for that, so they can get through the court system. Make no mistake, this will relieve the court system by at least 25%. So with that, I ask for a yes vote.
Is there any further discussion? Is there any further discussion on House Bill 1320? Seeing none. A division has been called. The question is the adoption of House Bill 1320. All those in the chamber not entitled to vote, please be seated.
Ready?
Well, we ready to go? Are all those in favor of House Bill 1320, please stand and remain standing in one place until the vote is taken? All those in favor? You may be seated. All those opposed, please stand and remain standing in one place until the vote is counted. You may be seated. House Bill 1320 is lost. Mr. Kohler, please read the title of House Bill 1066.
House Bill 1066, Representative Vigil, concerning the amount of a driver's license fee that a rural county clerk and recorder may retain when issuing a driver's license.
Representative Duran.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move House Bill 1066 to the Appropriations Committee.
A motion has been made to move House Bill 1066 to the Appropriations Committee. If there is no objection, it will be so moved. Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move the committee rise and report progress and beg leave to sit again later this afternoon.
You have heard the motion. Seeing no objection, the committee will rise and report.
House will come back to order. Mr. Kohler, please read the report.
Mr. Speaker, Committee of the Whole reports as follows. It has risen, reports progress, and begs leave to sit again later this afternoon.
Sounds great. Announcements and introductions, if you have any. Really quickly. Representative Kagan, first to the mic.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Mr. Speaker. House Judiciary Committee this afternoon, we have some scheduling issues, so we're going to change the order of the bills so that the 7-day court time intervals will be the first. Janelle and Gardner this afternoon will be the second. So please bear that in mind.
Representative Court.
Okay, Finance Committee, let's go ahead and get right on over there to hear the bills that we have today. And for this side of the House, and Representative Conti, do you want to join me for a second, please? For this side of the House, after we come back to the floor this afternoon, we will feed you. And Representative.
And Republican members of the House, you can look forward to dinner provided by the caucus.
All right, thank you.
And I think you know the menu.
Representative Duran.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Joint Budget Committee is going to resume at 2:30 p.m. Our members will be excused until 4 p.m. when we come back here. We have a lot of work to do. Attorney General Suthers is going to be joining us today in addition to trying to finish up the long bill. So thank you.
Representative Tyler.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Transportation Committee, we have it easy today after the long night yesterday. So how about 12-12 downstairs? 12-12 downstairs.
Representative Singer.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. House Local Government, no meeting today. See you tonight.
Any further announcements? Representative Holbert.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I call a meeting of the House Republican Caucus as soon as we're done here on the floor.
Okay. Do we need to delay committees? Let's stand a brief recess. Hold on. Okay. House will come back to order. Members, due to the Republicans caucusing at 12, which we're about to recess, after morning committees will start at 12:30. Let's keep more afternoon committees right now at 1:30, but if they are not done by 1:30, we will have to move that, and hopefully by 2. The schedule is to be back on the floor by 4. There'll be a call of the House at 4 p.m. today, so we continue our second readings. Also note, we will, when we come back to the floor, we will do thirds first. So the bills are on thirds. We will do those first, and then we will move to do back to second order. Representative Holbert.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I understand from the Chief Sergeant that the House Republican Caucus will meet in room 107.
Okay. Any further announcements or introductions? Representative Tyler.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Since I was just overruled by the Speaker on my 12-12, we'll see you at 12:30 instead. Just sort of lazy stroll down to the basement.
Representative Wilson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Colleagues, we have members here in the chamber from the Canyon City School District over here on my right. If you welcome them to the chamber.
Members, if committees are done before 4, we will come back before 4, and we'll let you know. But I don't feel like we'll probably be done before 4. So with that, the House will just stand in recess.